Hey, it's Neecee, Lexy lighting up your screen. Digital magic like you've never seen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Neecee Lexy. We're here to bring you inspiring stories, expert insights, and conversation that would empower and uplift you. I'm your host, Neecee, and today we are not only having two phenomenal women with us here joining us from Australia. One of our guests is a passionate advocate for mental health, Nura. She's dedicated her life for breaking stigma around mental health, supporting individuals, and we're going to have more discussion on what that means and how you'll be able to get more information to help you manage your stress, cultivate positive mindsets. Our second guest is a dynamic fitness and lifestyle coach, an enthusiastic Miss Thickums. I'm super excited to also have her here. She'll be making more insights on what it means to have a fitness, healthy lifestyle, as well as giving her some of her expert insight on how you maintain balance between life and your exercise. Without further ado, please let us dive into these meetings and help us joining us, these two lovely ladies, for us for the first time here at Neecee Lexy. Please welcome Nura and Miss Thickums. How are you, ladies?
Hi, we're good. How are
Hi.
you? Thank you for having us on your show.
You're most welcome. So I just first of all want to say welcome to the show. And can you both tell us more about yourselves and the journey that led you guys to advocate for both mental health as well as the fitness, respectively?
I was a carer for my best friend who was suffering from mental illness in 2019. And there's a lot of stigma when it comes, especially coming from Africa and Sudan, that you should be feeling shame and embarrassed at the fact that you have mental illness. So for me, I had to be her voice. I had to encourage her because she felt so ashamed and embarrassed at the fact that she's taking medication. A lot of people were saying to her, like, you're possessed or God is punishing you. So there was a lot of stigma, stereotype that was going around. So I was encouraging her so that way she doesn't feel like that she's not a normal human being. Basically, as you know, in the African community, it's a no-no. So I started with her, and what I did was I opened up a Facebook page where I started advocating for the ones who are suffering in silence, for the one that they feel like there isn't someone that is their complexion, which is African, that is actually doesn't know what mental illness is, or that they're not ashamed to talk about mental illness. So what I did was I educated myself when it comes to mental illness and community services diploma, where people dealing with mental health and also addiction, gambling and drinking. And fast forward to today, I still advocate, even though at this moment I myself suffer from social anxiety. And I started to understand what was mental illness once it started hitting home, because I went from advocating for someone to advocating for myself. And then in the African community, they've got this thing where they think you having mental illness either comes from substance, being possessed, or the other thing is that you were born with it and family should be ashamed of it and they should be hiding it away, which none of it is. I mean, being born by it or with it, yes, genetically it can happen. Yeah. By substance, yes, it can happen. People can have a psychotic episode. But the other one is, the number one that people forget is that the traumatic experience that you go through. And we all have experienced traumatic experience. For me, it was after losing my husband, dying from cancer. So, and I became more advocate after that. I felt what depression is, what anxiety is, what panic attack is. Before I could only speak on it because on theory, but when it happens to me in practical and going through it, and just there are days that I just didn't want to wake up, and there are days that I just felt like today's not my day. Or there are days where I'm like, yay, I'm alive. So it was like an up and down roller coaster, and I had nobody next to me. And it took about me trying to unalive myself to have my family understand what I was actually going through, for them to understand that this is a serious mental illness that they shouldn't be ashamed of, that they should be helping. When my mom saw me in the hospital bed, That's when she realized that she had to put her pride aside, the stereotype of being African and being ashamed of her own child suffering in silence.
Mm.
And then she started to understand slowly what is mental illness, how she can communicate with me without having to trigger me. And that took a lot because, having a Sudanese mother, obviously, this is something that they're not, they go to Dahagat al Khawaja, obviously, it's something to do with but it's not. It's with all of us. It took a lot for mom, but now mom understands that it can happen to anybody and everybody. And that is why I'm advocating so much about it, because whoever you are, wherever you are, if you are going through something, it's okay not being okay. It's okay to seek help. It's okay to express yourself. You are a normal human being who just got some struggles and challenges that you just have to come over, and there are steps that you can do that you can get to the other side. There's always light at the end of the tunnel.
Amen.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was such a lovely introduction. I just listened to all of it. I want to say, first of all, condolence to your husband. And then obviously mental health is not such an easy thing and an easy journey to be able to like go through it. And what you have experienced, as well as like your friends, and then being an advocate and also somebody who have gone through it, there's a lot of strength and resilience to even come out and be like, you know what, guys, I want to talk about it. Because a lot of times people will shy away. They'll be like, oh, you know what, I don't want to speak about it. I don't want people to know about it. But you being a voice and actually like, telling people like, hey, look, you can get help. I was there. And this is a chance for you guys to also speak more about it, because that way it makes more comfortable conversation for us to have, especially in our community. I don't think many people feel the comfortable to speak on it because they will feel judged, or they will feel ostrated from the community and things like that, right? And it really commend you for standing up and be like, no, I will speak on it and I will share my story, because that is something that not only you're overcoming that hurdle and coming to the other side, you're showing us a testimony of like, okay, I can be better, and you can also too, So thank you so much for that. I would appreciate it. The other thing I wanted to ask you is like, especially for those who are going through it and things like that, how can somebody recognize and try to prioritize like the mental health or the signs to watch out for it? Like, what are some of the signs? If, let's say, because a lot of times people be like, oh, I'm just kind of like, it's overwork or burnout, but they might not know like, it's mental health.
The most common sign is isolation. A lot of people, they distance themselves, feeling that they're getting annoyed by people, but in actuality, they're just being triggered and they just want to be by themselves. Like isolating, not getting up to shower, not getting up, looking forward for the day, not feeling motivated, and starting to feel numb. It can be a seasonal depression or it can be a clinical depression, but to get to know the difference between the two, you will actually have to go and get it diagnosed professionally. But the number one is isolation. A lot of people think, oh, it's just because it's too much right now, I can't handle the world, so I'm just going to close my door and just stay in my bed all day. Sometimes we can have that. It doesn't mean it's actually depression. But if it goes for a long time, that is the sign for it. Maybe you don't feel like getting up from bed today, which is okay. That is not depression by all means. But if you are staying in bed weeks after weeks after weeks, that is one of the signs. The other thing is that not eating properly. Don't feel like eating. The appetite is shut. For a day or two is fine, but if you continue as well, that's the other sign. Just the lack of hygiene. Like if you were the type of person who showers at night and you don't feel like doing it anymore, or you shower in the morning, you don't feel like doing it anymore, but it has to have gone like for a week or two, not just like not showering today and then you shower tomorrow and you say you're depressed. And it can be different. It can be different in every different people. Like there are some signs that can come, or the signs will come when it's too late. So depending. So whatever that you are feeling, it's okay to feel it, as long as that you make sure that you look after yourself and you reach out. Even just talk to your doctor. You don't necessarily have to go to a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I don't know what they call them in Canada.
Yes. Yeah, we have therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, or even like social workers that will
Yeah.
also, yeah.
So these are the signs. And the other thing is that surround yourself with positive people. Like your environment is really, really important. If your environment is clean, the mind becomes clean. Not straight away, but it will eventually be. But if you put yourself in a not motivated, not uplifting environment, that's just going to add more to your depression or to your anxiety. For
Yeah.
me, I had to I seeked help from different ethnicities.
Mhm.
I sought help professionally, and I had to learn how to deal with depression every day. And every day is a different journey. It's a work that you have to put in. Not just medication does the job, but you also have to put the effort in.
Yeah.
That way, you can actually continue living your life every day. Only the difference is that you have to take medication if
Mm.
you get to that point, and I pray you don't. But if you do, it's okay because there's a lot of help out there. And then also look after yourself. Take care of yourself. Everybody is here in this world because we're all unique and beautiful in our own way. And you will learn how to actually take care of you once you are being diagnosed the right diagnosis, and
Mhm.
then you can go from there.
Yeah, that is so beautiful. I love the fact that you to like, help us identify the sign. And the one thing about the cleanliness is a really, really important thing because sometimes it's like if you looked around your room and your room
Yeah.
is a hot mess for a few days, that's technically is like, I don't know, I read it somewhere, it's like it's a reflection of how your mind is. If your room is
Yeah.
dirty, it means your mind is
It'll be
not.
like
Yeah.
chaos.
Yeah.
Chaos.
So
Whatever the room is, it's chaos. But when you walk into there's something about walking into the room so clean,
yeah.
and the room it smells nice, and like because that's how I sometimes meditate. Like I don't necessarily only pay attention to the medication, but also what I do in every day. Like I like candles. I love candles. So once I finish cleaning, the Sudanese householders, once you finish cleaning, تحط البخور. To make the house smell nice, and like it just feels it lightens up the whole house and it makes it smell good. You
Yeah.
can use the bahur, or you can use candles, or you can use those house spray, which is
Yeah.
whatever that makes you happy and relaxed. That contributes a lot to your mental well-being.
That
Cleanness is the number one.
that is so true. I definitely agree to that because it makes a huge difference. Just like walking to clean room, you feel rejuvenated. You feel like you want to do things. Whereas
Yeah.
like if everything is like scattered everywhere, you're like, oh, do I really want to deal with this today?
Yeah,
And then you
it
go
puts
back to your
Yeah,
down.
it puts that pressure in you. Yeah, it does. And it's like, oh, I don't want to deal with you. I'll deal with you tomorrow. But tomorrow comes another tomorrow, and it just piles up. And actually, true story, that's how hoarders end up being diagnosed. Did you know that?
Wow.
Yeah, because it starts off slowly and it just builds up. Because a lot of people, when they see hoarders, they're like, oh, how could they live like this? Da, da, da. When in actuality, they themselves don't realize how bad it is, because by the time it gets there, they got so used to it.
Mhm.
And that itself is actually a mental illness, because I don't think anybody wants to live in a chaos environment.
Yeah.
So
And
that's one of the signs as well.
that is so true because recently I was in another training session and they mentioned that like things that you do repetitively, it becomes like a natural habit by default, and you're
Mhm.
not gonna recognize like, oh, this is something like I'm not doing. Like for example, if you fold your hand like that, there's
Mm.
always arm up and one arm down. But if they told you, okay, switch it the other way around, you're like, okay, how do I do this? That same
Yeah.
thing with like the habit that we're doing, especially with like that little analogy you mentioned.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted, obviously, with regards to like medications and getting help and things like that, even though some people might be willing to get the help, but there's also a stigma around the medication aspect of it. They'd be like, oh, these doctors are just, giving us too much pills to make our kids crazy. It could also be like from your family side, not necessarily the patient itself who's going through.
Mm.
So, like, how do we deal with people viewing like getting medication or viewing getting help that's just like a bad thing, not really like the help the person need?
If the medication is necessary, by all means take it. Don't
Yeah.
worry about what the people say. Or The medication is there for, because you have to understand that a normal brain is balanced like this. But when you go through, when you start having mental illness, your brain becomes like this. So in order for it to come back up and become balanced, you need that medication to balance it out. Some of the medication might not work, some of them might work. But if people are making you feel ashamed and embarrassed of you, or that stigma, maybe it's going to make my child worse than better. Obviously, yes, some of the medications have side effects. It can make you worse than better. But it's way better to save your life by taking this medication rather than you getting worse and having a psychotic episode and doing something that there's no coming back from. Like, there was a story in 2018, which is sad. We had an African brother who, yes, he was taking his medication on and off, but the whole community made him feel so embarrassed about him taking medication. You're a married man, you've got kids. How dare you take medication? Like whenever he takes medication, the wife says he's all good to me. But because he felt shamed and embarrassed, he will hide from his wife and not take it, and then they'll end up fighting. So this brother happens to not take his medication for a while, and then once one day he had a psychotic episode, went to the city, and the sad story is that he went and unalived someone, and then he had a weapon in his hand, and as the police were approaching him, telling him to put down your weapon, but because it wasn't him, he was having a psychotic episode, so he kept on saying, the guy is trying to harm me, the guy is trying to unalive me. And because nobody can see what he's seeing, then they shot him. So that day 2 lives were lost. And until today, I always think about this guy, people made him feel ashamed, embarrassed for him to take his medication. If he hadn't listened, I know it's so hard not to listen to people. If he hadn't listened, maybe he'll still be here today. Or if I had advocated even more harder, would he still be here today? It's just, there's a lot that goes on. So save your life, please. Your life is so precious.
Step up your style game with
The ones on the shelf, yeah, she's on the rise. Social wave, making plays all day and night. Neecee, Lexy in the spotlight, shining so bright. From marketing dreams to the YouTube flow, live interviews with stars, every coast, every show, she's changing the game. Neecee, Lexy, yeah. Remember